welcome to me as we join together for bite-sized conversations. So what are we talking about today, Jenny?
I think we're talking about selling, aren't we, today? Because you and I have been talking a lot about selling lately. And I thought, well, when you suggested let's talk about selling and the pros and cons and what it means and what we need to do. And I think you've been talking about 10 tips or 10 power words that you use to help people sell their message.
Yes. So I think we talked about in a couple of weeks ago about how you and I are both doing the same coaching program with we have the same sales results coach. And Andrew, who you know has been on previously and chatted with me one morning. And so it's been such a fascinating journey because I'm so resistant to the sell, and I just don't enjoy the hard sell. And as we know, we all have baggage that comes with that of what has turned us off with salespeople in the past, etc. But what I love exploring is the idea of that we're not selling, we're solving problems. And that for me is where it completely gets turned around. And I was just on a session with a client this morning, and she was talking about that close and that the stress around the idea of selling and how she gets all worked up. And I was like, oh, I've got a little fix for that. So, and that is those, coming up with those 10 power words and making a mantra, but then constantly thinking about, I'm not trying to do the sell. So for example, when I'm on a discovery call, first of all, I want to get a bit of rapport going with them. Then I want to listen to what their problems are. Then I don't need to think about how I'm going to sell to them because all I'm going to do is solve their problems. So, and show them how I can solve their problems. So it completely changes the way that you feel going into what some people would call a sales call. I definitely wouldn't call it that. And yeah, it feels amazing. It feels much better. And this client felt great after I'd rephrased it.
I love that idea. And I was, when we thought about this topic, I was thinking back to my days when I was actually a sales director for a psychometric testing company. And I did that for 8 or 9 years. And I think back how I sold, and I didn't consider myself a salesperson. I actually considered myself a project manager, in the idea that I had, I had a client I'm working with. They had, as you say, a problem to solve, and my job was to actually take them on that journey and identify the project or how we're going to actually manage that process so they can actually have the outcome that they want. So we would always be about problem solving, and it would be about helping them understand how our solutions fit their problems in exactly the same way you're framing. And it's funny, when I was doing that for other people and selling that for other companies, that's just how it was. But as soon as you become your business owner and you start actually running your own company, all of a sudden things change. And I think over the last couple of years, we start to worry about we're selling ourselves now. It's not someone else's product. It's actually us or our services or our product that we've developed. And it becomes a little bit more personal, and we start to see selling, as you say, in a different way. But having that reframe to being a problem solver really does make a huge difference when you're talking to potential clients.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting that you said that you did selling as a job, but what you didn't call it selling, that you were project managing. I think that's great. So for a lot of people, they won't see selling as such a negative word, but definitely for me, it's never been a particularly comfortable word. And on a personal note, for decades, people have always said to me, oh, you're an amazing salesperson, Kylie. You could sell snow to an Eskimo. And I'm like, actually, that's not true. What I'm good at is sharing something that I think is amazing. And I would prefer to do that when I'm not trying to if I'm telling a friend all about something incredible I've discovered, I can only do that if I'm actually not going to be making any money from it. Because that also, think about Amway and how many people, I certainly got invited to some dinner parties that I thought were legit dinner parties with friends that it turned out to be a big Amway fest. And so Amway might possibly have some amazing products, but the way that it was served up to me was just so kind of underhanded and sort of unpleasant that it really has put me off. So
I think that's a really good point, though, isn't it? It's the context of the conversation. And I think that's what it comes back to, is that at the end of the day, everything we do, and I think when I started my business and when I talk to my clients, I have a very similar conversation that everything we do every day, whether you're in a business or not, is selling of some form. It's a transaction of some form. So if we take it back to what it is an exchange. And all selling is an exchange of services or product for value. And so sometimes that's monetary value, sometimes that's emotional value, sometimes that's, you know, in-kind support or whatever it looks like. But everything we do in some form is an exchange. When we have these conversations, it's an exchange. You know, there's no money being transacted, but in some respect, we're talking to each other and having this exchange. So that's how I view selling, is that it's an exchange of my understanding or my ideas to solve your problem. And it's this, I give you value through that way, and you gain that value and you give me back through, you know, support or, you know, trust, or you give me trust, or you give me your time. And that's such a valuable thing. And you and I have talked about that before, about the value of time as a commodity in our businesses, as opposed to just the monetary aspect.
Yes, that's such a good point. I was just speaking with someone about that they were doing a swap. And the swap's an interesting thing, isn't it? So they were saying that they had, you know, they were giving X amount in their monetary value. Oh, okay, let me reword that. So just say that this, you know, you needed a job done, I needed a job done, and the other one could do the job for us. But she said what went pear-shaped is that that person charged this much per hour. So they were able to do the job for them really quickly. I charged way less than that. So then therefore it felt like I was putting way more hours in, and it was just ended up going really pear-shaped. And I said, actually, a swap can be a great thing, but it needs to be hour for hour when it comes to a swap, not as a monetary
100%. Completely agree with you. And I think, and that goes back to that exchange piece, isn't it? We often think of selling and you know, contra deals are a form of sales. You know, sponsorships are a form of sales. There's that value of, I'm giving companies for sponsors an X amount of money in exchange for a certain value. So sponsorship, we like to separate from selling, but it's exactly the same idea, is that we're solving a problem and we're helping support somebody that we like, a business that we like, or a cause that we like, through sponsorship or partnership or contra deals, like that sort of exchange of time or services. But I completely agree with you. It's, how do we reframe that so that it works for me and it works for the person, or works for you, so that we feel like we're both getting some equitable value. It doesn't have to be equal, but it has to be equitable.
Absolutely, where we're both feeling comfortable with it. So a topic that came up
about these power words, though.
Can we I'd love
these power words.
I'm excited to do that. Let me just quickly first, though, it came up yesterday and it's been on my mind ever since, which is the difference between a collaboration and a contra deal. Because yes, I love doing collabs, and I'm often recommending them to my clients. And I'm even saying in workshops and things that I'm running, hey, even within this group right here will be some amazing collab opportunities. And I did it even since my e-commerce business, where we would do like 20 people collaborations, where we would all donate the same value of a product, run these huge competitions, and then one person would win, you know, well over $1,000 worth of product, which they loved. And then of course, all 20 of us then received, you know, hundreds of email addresses, hundreds of new followers, and all people that were interested in exactly what we were offering. Yes. So to me, a collaboration is an amazing thing. What's your take on a collaboration, Jenny?
And I think that's exactly because, and I think what we're doing is we're growing benefit for both of us. So the benefits, and we're building our business, building trust, building engagement through basically the power of that economies of scale, if you like. If you're talking about economics term, we call it economies of scale. We all bring together and we can create greater outcomes because, you know, as they say, the sum of everything is better than the individual parts. So by bringing us all together, we actually can leverage each other's business, we can leverage each other's network. And that's not in a negative way. It's basically saying, I'm supporting you, you're supporting me. We're actually creating social proof for each other because we're endorsing each other through collaboration. And I think for new businesses, collaboration is such a great way to get known, to actually step out of where they are and say, you know, hello, I'm here. And by the way, this guy likes and trusts me, and you like that person. So maybe you might like me. So collaborations, I think, work really well, particularly when you're starting a business and you're early on, to help build understanding, market awareness, but also just to help connect and learn from others on how they run businesses. So I think collaborations, I mean, you and I have been doing some form of collaboration for I think over 18 months now. And we see, and we have lots of conversations about what's coming in the future for us. And there are going to be some very cool stuff coming from us. But there's that collaboration, and then we go, okay, well, contra is always a problem. I think contra can be always a challenge. So I always prefer to do collaborations. And rather than saying it's a contra deal, I actually choose to say, actually not a contra, I'm just going to give you this, or I'm going to do a pro bono work for you. And I'm happy to do that service for you with no expectations of return, because then the pressure is removed. when you have contra, the same thing happens as you said earlier. You start to question, was that amount worth it? And in fact, I had this conversation last night with a couple of the attendees who've come a bit earlier to the retreat and were here last night. And we were talking about that idea of, that value exchange. I'm giving you my time a little bit cheaper because I'm hoping to get value at the other end. And when that doesn't happen, you start to question to say, well, actually, was that really good? Was that good value? Was that done in good faith? So now I've actually reframed the way that I do things, and we do collabs like this, which is about time, value exchange, connection, sharing ideas versus, I'm just going to go do some work for somebody who I love because I want to do that.
Yes, that's beautifully put. Really is a contra for me. And, I've got one example because I've done a lot of contras in my life, particularly in the early days. And of course, contras don't pay the grocery bill, does it? But on the other hand, they can be productive and they can be a good outcome. For example, many years ago, there was a new dance school in town and they needed a whole lot of marketing and, graphic design work, all their print work, social media work, etc. So the dance school director and I got a great deal going, whereas I would do all of her marketing, and in return, my daughter could do as many dance classes and I was doing the adult dance classes. And it worked really well on the whole throughout the term time. But in the month leading up to concert time at the end of the year, it was a disaster because there was so much to do. I'd already well and truly fulfilled my part of the bargain, I always felt. But the work at the end was just enormous in terms of flyers and posters and massive amounts of stuff. And it always ended up feeling heavy by the end. Whereas throughout the year, it had felt pretty good. Yeah. So that said, we did it for years and years and years, and it did work well, but it didn't always feel particularly good on my part.
And I think that's where we can actually talk about, I think contra works when there's really good boundaries and clear guidelines about what the contra involves. And that's where you reflecting back, if you were having a similar conversation to one of your clients or I was having one of mine about a similar situation, I would say, well, the contra should be for the normal term. So, week 1 to week 10 of a standard school term or the dance term, that's where the contra lies. Anything that sits out of that because of the amount of work or the volume, that's actually going to be an extra fee. However, I'm happy to do that at a really special package for you to continue to the support. Or you say, if you get your ducks in a row organized enough, we can maybe fit some of that work through the term so we're not running and having all that extra time and extra load at the back end. And I think often what happens in a contra, just like you've done, you've experienced it, it worked almost well, and you now understand what the boundaries are around them. So next time you go into a similar arrangement, you can say, well, these are the boundaries. And we often forget that it's okay to put boundaries into contra deals, collaborations. It's not about saying you have carte blanche to my business and my time. It's about saying, this is what I'm offering, this is how I can deliver and serve you the best as I can, and this is what the exchange is going to look like. And I think that's a piece for newbies into it and people joining us and have never done it before. It's how do we think about the boundaries and the expectations so that we can maintain that equitable exchange.
That is so well put, and I really think that when you're very beginning in business, etc., is that you get offered a contra, you don't really know what to do with it, and then it's like, well, some work's better than no work. It'll get me some experience. It could get a good review out of it, etc. So it can feel, I guess, something kind of good. But then because you haven't put those boundaries in place, because you're new and it's fresh and all of that, then it's quite awkward to put the boundaries in place down the track once you've already started. And definitely for me, that's where it's gone pear-shaped over time. But I've been offered some astounding contras, like, I'll give you a year's worth of astrology sessions for this and that, and I'm like, I'm still going to pay the bills, I'm still going to buy the groceries. It's that's not right. Really feeling like
a bit of barter system. I can't barter those to somebody else.
That's right. So Jenny, now back to your original thing before about the power words, etc.
Yeah,
this was something that we learned.
Conversations about power words. I mean, I use my 3 words exercise where we talk about how to actually create and craft your message so that you can actually share that really clearly and use that as a jumping off point to help solve those problems. But tell me more about these 10 power words and how you construct that.
So it came up in our 2-day sales masterclass called The Fundamentals of Selling. And what was so good about this is that you know, for starters, I'm just someone that never thinks that I'm selling. So I loved it, you know, when you can reframe it to, you know, that I'm solving problems, which is perfect. But then it was talking about, Andrew was talking about how to step forward before you get on that sales call, or in my case, a discovery call, and feel confident and ready to go. Because as you know, it's all about attitude. It's all about where your mindset is at, how positive you're feeling. And if you go in there, shoulders slump, going, oh, they're not going to want to buy what I'm offering, then it's not going to have a very good
They're
outcome.
not going to want to buy what you're offering.
No. So that Wonder Woman stance, you know, standing up, hands on hip, feet apart, and doing some great deep breathing for a couple of minutes. And then what he got us doing was coming up with 10 power words. So I'm going to share mine. And then what comes out of those power words is that you're then going to try and create a mantra. So I'm typing up my mantra, putting it on my wall because I love it. And I'm just going to do a little warning. It has a little cheeky F-bomb in it. But here we go. So my power words are, this is what I wanted to feel before, I go into a discovery call, for example. So I've got confidence, empowered. I want to be able to give and grow, trust, share, absolutely. I love words like absolutely, awesome. I need strength and I need energy for it. And of course, in there, I've got a fuck yeah. So then when I was working on those words, the mantra that came out of it that I would say then before a discovery call is, I've got the energy and strength to empower and share. I'm pumped to give and grow. Fuck yeah.
I love it I remember when you did that in the exercise, and it was such a fun exercise to watch you embody that as you said it.
Yeah.
And there's something really great about actually giving yourself that kind of pep talk and reminding yourself that you're doing this because it's actually, you're trying to create value and all those beautiful power words that you want to share and embody at the time. So I remember it was so great to watch you stand up there and do that kind of, you know, this is all in, and I'm about to, like, I'm going to rock it on this call.
Yeah, it felt so good. But also I feel very lucky at this position or state of my business is that I can very quickly tell whether that's not going to be a good fit for me working with someone. And so then I can help them. I can problem solve by veering them off to work with someone else that is better suited to work with them. So it doesn't feel that urgency to, I need to work with anybody that wants to work with me, you know, which probably is where the selling issue comes in, isn't it? But if I'm just able to help solve problems for the people where I can particularly, you know, do that with them, then that feels really good. So yeah, having that mantra I think is wonderful, and I wish I'd had it a few years ago. I think that would have made a big difference in my approach.
Well, it's funny when we did that exercise, I remember, you know, and how you've embodied it, and for me it's so I've struggled with it, I'm going to be honest, in that kind of having that mantra. And I've got it written down, and I look at it and go, yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But I guess because I feel so blessed to be able to share value and content with people every day, I'm excited literally to have any conversation with anybody about their business at any time. So I'm always feeling excited and you know, inspired by the conversations that I have with people about their business. And it was interesting, in part of the conversation around how to sell is I did a discovery call earlier this week with someone off the back of a workshop about goal setting. And the intention for the 30-minute call, and I said to everybody, is we're just going to do this goal setting session. It's not a sales call. It's truly about how to help you implement your goals off the back of the workshop that we did. And at the end of the conversation, the girl said, so how can I continue working with you? How would this work with you? Just
Brilliant.
Because that whole conversation for her was me just sharing value, us discussing. And she saw the value because she saw that it wasn't about me selling to her. And the reality is, let's face it, every discovery call you're doing, you're seeding, you're talking about what you're doing, you're sharing value with the intention at the end to hopefully have them as a client, because that's what you want, because we want to be able to share our value. But it was just and I've noticed myself that when we did that exercise and thinking about those power words, that language starts to come into everything that you do when you're having the conversation. So you're using words like amazing and inspiring and positive and all the great power words that you want to use in your mantra, actually through your sales conversation as well, or your problem solving conversation, because they actually start to feel like they're part of your vocabulary and who you are. And that's what I love about that exercise.
Yes, absolutely, Jenny. I completely agree with you. It's very empowering to then be able to empower others. And
so I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
when you have clients, particularly in the work you're doing, I mean, you spend a lot of time working with clients doing the digital marketing and showing them how to show up and essentially how to, sell their business through a digital medium because they're selling you or their business. What is the biggest challenge you find people have when they first come to you in wanting to do that?
Well, that's an interesting one because it may not be what you think, but on the whole, what I find is the biggest challenge is that they don't want to do it. So they know that they should, and they know that their business needs it, but they actually don't want to. It's not, I mean, yes, a lot of it is that they don't know how, but so much of it is that they don't want to be on Facebook personally. So how can my business be on Facebook and me not be on it? How can I put all the stuff out for my business? And, they're happy to be, learning about the scheduling posts and all of that, but they don't want to actually turn up and do it themselves. Yeah. And that is probably my biggest battle, is showing them actually the joy of being social on social media and pointing out that actually it's not just a horrible thing that you have to learn for your business. If you actually dislike it, you shouldn't even be doing it because it's not going to come through in the right way. Like, like we were talking about showing up to a discovery call and feeling positive and ready to go and shoulders back. It's no different to showing up on social media. If you're hating it and you're trying to put your business out there, it's going to be a hard slog. So I really like to show all the different ways that you can actually have some fun with it. And for me personally, in my Facebook group, I absolutely love it. I love hanging out with people in there. I love, getting to know the whole community better and sharing more, etc. So I will invite them into that. They'll get to hang out, and then they're like, oh yeah. And then they might, if it's a woman, they might join my Positive Passionate Businesswomen group. And then they're like, yes, it feels like a family. It's amazing. And suddenly they're starting to get the joy. And then they start to feel really confident putting their content out there and sharing their content, even just within the groups. And then all of a sudden it starts to evolve and change. That said, that's not everybody, that's for sure, but that's probably one of the biggest ones I see coming at me. And it's one of my biggest challenges is the dislike for it, the disdain for it.
I think also, and I totally understand that. I was like that, that when we first met, Facebook and social media, we weren't really friends then, and I've embraced it because not only because I recognize the value it brings to my business and the value and as a business tool, I see it as a business tool. It's something that I have to use in the same way that I may not like to do my bookkeeping or manage Xero or Airtable, although I love Airtable, but I might not like using other systems. Social media and digital marketing is a system that you need to employ for successful business, particularly in the day and age that we're in. And I think my mindset changed when I recognized the connection between showing up online and the opportunity to share my value and problem solve for people globally rather than just next door to me. Because that's really the difference, isn't it? Essentially, social media is allowing us to talk to people everywhere rather than just in our shopping center. And I had a conversation with a client very similar to that recently, where I said, it's imagine turning up one day and turning up to like the Westfield Shopping Centre down the road, once a month with your flyer, hoping to find somebody who wants your product. If you're not actually showing up anywhere on a digital medium, that's what it's like. You're turning up, or if you're only showing up once a day or once a month on social media, you may as well not do it because you're going to get lost in the sea of. But if you turned up every day, and if I said to somebody, go and stand in Westfield every day and talk to 1,000 people, they'd be like, oh, that sounds horrible. And then you go, well, imagine you could do that through the work that you do with your digital media. You don't have to stand there. It does it for you. It shows up in 1,000 different places for you.
Absolutely.
That connection is so important.
Absolutely. And that reminds me, I just got a message from a guy a couple of days ago who we met many, many, many years ago, and, are friends on Facebook. Anyway, clearly he was following Hello Media on Facebook because he sent me this message and said, oh, so have you shut the business down because I haven't seen it on Facebook for a long time? I thought, oh, that's funny, isn't it? And then I just thought, well, how do I respond to that? Well, all I need to do is if you were seeing all the stuff there but never engaging with it, then Facebook assumes you don't even like the content. So it's going to show you less and less and less until eventually it shows you nothing. And so, no, I'm still very much there. And maybe all you got to do is click like from time to time, or even go, hey, rad content, Kylie, or something. Or I agree with that, or I disagree with that. And then boom, it'll be back in your feed. Mm-hmm.
It's just, I look at digital marketing is like old school print media. They work out how many people throw them out, how many people, open them, how many responses they get, and then they decide where they're going to send the mail. It's exactly the same way, but it's just done in a much more efficient and more effective, with way more algorithms than they used to use in print media and in print marketing. But the concept is still the same. I remember we're talking about selling and problem solving many, many years ago when I was in uni. At uni, we were talking about how at the time, Pizza Hut used to do its marketing. And this, I don't know whether this is a marketing wives' tale or if it's, an urban myth, but back in the day when it was really expensive to do research about how to find your customers, the way that Pizza Hut chose its locations, it would find out where McDonald's was putting a location and put a Pizza Hut next door. Because they worked out that McDonald's had done all the research, identified where, because it's a family restaurant, they found out where the people were going, where they wanted to, where the communities were going to be built, and they looked forward, that forward focused a couple of years for that. And then Pizza Hut said, well, why would we spend that money when we just find out where they're going to build, and we'll just build near them, because the demographics exist. And to me, that's a little bit like social media and digital marketing. We have the power of looking at everybody else. We have the power of actually connecting with people and saying, wow, that's working really well. What's really good about what they're doing? What do I like about what they're doing? What do other people like about what they're doing? So how can I actually incorporate that and boost the way that I serve using those strategies? And that's what I love about digital media, because we have this opportunity.
Me too, but I definitely have to add one extra thing to that, which is, what do I not like about what they're doing? Yeah. Because I'm always talking with people about, when you're thinking about how to evolve your website or build a new website, what do I not like about people's websites? When I'm looking at their Facebook, what do I not like about what they're putting out? So looking at what you don't like in all ways of how people are getting visible is so important, because this, like, for example, I try not to be too political on my Facebook page, for example, and just oversharing, that kind of thing. I would save that for when I'm in person with someone, so it doesn't get misconstrued, because at the end of the day, it's words. And that's why I'm loving Clubhouse, because it's verbal, it's vocal, so you're not getting confused about someone's message. It's very, very clear with the inflections in their voice and all of that of what they mean.
And there's something fabulous about, after the conversation last week, and I have gone back into Clubhouse and trying desperately to try and, and engage in it. Although I find it struggling with time. It's like my favorite podcast. I want to be there to listen to it, but I have to be there at the right time to be able to listen to it.
That's right.
But what I'm loving about it is that section about these people are showing up and just sharing information, and it doesn't feel like they're selling. But let's face it, you're not going to go on Clubhouse and moderate a room and facilitate and be there and show up and have the conversations and share your value if you're not looking to try and build engagement and build followers and build people to say, hey, I really liked what you said then, I'm going to check you out. And that's really what Clubhouse is. But they found a way to market and connect that, our desire for information, in a way that people don't feel like they're at an infomercial for 24/7. They feel like they're getting value because there is that human connection and conversation. I think there's a power in Clubhouse that I don't think that I've only just started to really acknowledge. And I'm sure for you who've been on it much longer than me, you've seen that. But as someone who's not a true marketer in the same way that you are, that's been really powerful for me to recognize, is that the connection it's making through conversation, and that we miss that sometimes on a digital media platform because we feel like we're getting spammed with the same ad or the same post. And you and I have talked about this a lot, when people put the same post on 7 different groups, and you say, and it's exactly the same content copied and pasted, and there's not even any tailoring for the group. So it feels like I'm getting that kind of spam message on Google. You can't click the I don't want to see this anymore.
Yeah.
It's always there. Whereas Clubhouse doesn't have that. You hear it once, it resonates, you engage. It's something really powerful, I think, about
absolutely that. And I agree. So it doesn't feel like you're being sold to or anything. It's just about sharing, giving value, and solving problems. So that's wonderful. It's a great way to wrap up.
Gosh, it's already, I didn't realize the time already.
And you know what? One top tip is for you to turn on your notifications for Clubhouse, because then I can ping you into rooms. So I've tried to ping you before, and there's been a few others I've tried to ping in, but they've got them turned off. So
I'm going to do that as soon as we finish this call. I'm going to put on my notifications and get that, because I know there's been some stuff that I've missed. I've gone back and like, no.
Get pinged.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that aspect of it. So, Jenny,
what's your final tip about problem solving through, or selling through problem solving?
What's that? Sorry?
What's your final tip about selling through problem solving?
Oh, just, excuse me. that if you step forward in whatever conversation you're about to have, or whether it's a post on social media about a product that you have that is amazing and was going to help people, or if it's doing coaching or consulting or something, whatever it is, when you're stepping in there to talk to them about it, if all you think about is that they've got a problem and I'm going to show them the way that I'm the person that can solve it for them, that's got to be so much more empowering than stepping in and going, for example, I'm thinking of Julie Dixon with her helmet brim product. If she just went forward and went, sell my helmet brim, everybody needs a helmet brim, but instead she's problem solving by saying, there's such a problem with the Australian sun, or worldwide with the sun and being out on the horse all day. So this is solving that problem.
Yeah,
so,
I love that.
Yeah, so that's really my last tip, is that whatever, whether you're product based or service based, finding the way to share what it is that with that problem that you're solving. What about you, Jenny? What's your last top tip?
Oh, I think mine is probably going to be the same. I think it's really about going with the intention is that we want to add value and help them move forward and get them unstuck. So by problem solving, we're helping them move forward, maybe half a step, maybe one step, so they actually see there's a pathway. So part of problem solving is helping people kind of unblock and recognize there's a different way of doing things, or that they can achieve something, or they can move forward with whatever it is they need to do. So, when we go in, my goal is always to try and help somebody just take one step. Doesn't matter what that step is, but one step, because that sparks the change, and then that sparks recognition that actually I can do something different. So for me, it's like with you, what is the problem I'm solving? How do I share it? And how do we actually get people to just take one step forward? Because that will change their world.
I love that. One step forward will change your world. That's wonderful, Jenny. That's wonderful. So how can people connect in with you, Jenny?
I'm on @ElephantInTheRoomAU on Facebook and Instagram, best place to find me, or you can go to my website, eitrconsulting.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. We catch up, we have events. And then if you're lucky, you can come down here in June and join us for our next 3-day mastermind. But yeah, so @ElephantInTheRoomAU, Facebook and Insta.
Awesome. Thank you. And you can connect in with me at hellomedia.team is the website. It's also hellomedia.team on Instagram and hellomedia.dream.team on Facebook.
And hello, Kylie on Clubhouse.
Yes, that's right. Hello, Kylie. So we invite you to join us. Jenny and I do a collaboration with our group coaching, so that you can join both of our group coaching sessions each month for a heavily discounted price. So get in touch with us if you'd like to join in with that. And otherwise, we will look forward to seeing you next Friday.
Yes.
When we talk
about
next week
we're talking about entrepreneurship, aren't we?
I can't wait, Jenny, because you and I feel the same way about calling yourself an entrepreneur. So let's chat about that. And I'm looking forward to it already.
Awesome.
And I believe we have a guest joining us. Do we have a guest joining us for that, Jenny?
Yeah, we may have a guest. I will let you know.
Oh, that's exciting. And I will see you later on up at Cabarita Beach for our business retreat.
Love it. Have it awesome. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend and a great day. Bye.
Bye.